think success is found in light, in clarity, in applause, in control. But Carl Jung would laugh at that illusion. He'd tell you the truth. Your real transformation begins the moment you meet the thing you've been running from. Your own shadow, the dark, denied half of your soul. The part of you that burns in silence and hungers for expression. You polish your mask every day, pretending to be good, composed, righteous. But beneath it, something feral watches you. It knows your secrets, your envy, your rage, your suppressed genius. And until you face it, you are nothing but half alive. Jung called it individuation, the sacred collision between who you pretend to be and who you truly are. Success in his eyes was not the conquest of the world, but the conquest of the self. The integration of your light and darkness. The day you look your shadow in the eyes and say, "I see you," that's the day you stop being a victim of your own mind. Comment this now. I have met my shadow. Because tonight, you begin the only journey that ever mattered, the descent into yourself. Number 1, the awakening. You wake up one day and realize that everything you've been chasing means nothing. The applause, the validation, the numbers, the hollow praise, all of it was a disguise for the emptiness you refused to face. That is the beginning of awakening, not the rise of light, but the recognition of darkness. Carl Jung warned that what you resist persists. You've resisted your shadow for so long that it has become your invisible master, directing every move you make. The anger you deny bleeds into your words. The fear you hide shapes your choices. The envy you bury poisons your peace. And you call this control. But control is a fragile illusion built on repression. The real power begins when you sit with the chaos instead of numbing it. When you stop asking, "How do I become successful?" and start asking, "Who inside me have I silenced?" That question is a blade. It cuts through every lie your ego has told you. Jung called it the night sea journey, the crossing into the unknown parts of the soul. You will hate it at first. You'll feel lost, torn apart, consumed by the raw truth of yourself. But that's how transformation always begins, not in light, but in shadow. The path to success isn't built on affirmations or achievements. It's built on confrontation. The moment you stop pretending and start observing your own darkness, you reclaim your authority. You see, your shadow doesn't destroy you. It completes you. It's the map of everything you've disowned, waiting for acknowledgement. When you stop running from it, you become something else, someone real. Comment this now. I see my darkness and I am not afraid. Because the awakening isn't a comfort, it's a crucifixion of illusion. The ego dies and the soul rises. You think you're falling, but in truth, you're finally beginning to stand. Number 2, the mirror of the mind. When you look into a mirror, you think you see yourself, but you don't. You see a reflection sculpted by habit, by fear, by what you believe others will accept. The real you lives behind that glass, distorted, silent, waiting. Jung called that unseen presence the shadow. Everything you refuse to admit, everything you deny because it doesn't fit the image you've built. It's the voice that whispers things you're ashamed to hear. The impulse you disguise as logic. The darkness you label, "not me." Yet it is you, more honest than the persona you parade each day. The mind plays its cruel trick. It projects the traits you hate most about yourself onto others, so you never have to face them. That's why certain people trigger you. They mirror the pieces you've buried. Every judgment you make is a confession in disguise. You blame, you gossip, you moralize, all to avoid the mirror. But the unconscious doesn't forget. It drags those unacknowledged fragments through your dreams, through your failures, through the patterns that repeat until you finally look. Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." To meet your shadow is to break the mirror and step inside it. You will see the child you neglected, the liar you justified, the coward you hid. It will burn, but clarity always does. When you integrate that darkness, it stops being a threat and becomes your ally. Your intuition sharpens, your empathy deepens, your presence becomes magnetic. The world bends toward those who have made peace with themselves. Comment this now. I see what the mirror hides. Because the mind's mirror was never meant for vanity, it was meant for revelation. Only those who dare to gaze into it without flinching discover the power that lies beneath their reflection. Number 3, the war within. Inside you, two forces are always at war. The first is your persona, the mask you crafted to survive, to be accepted, to belong. It smiles when you want to scream. It bows when you want to fight. It obeys when your soul begs to rebel. And across from it stands your shadow, unrefined, unapologetic, pure instinct. You've spent your life feeding the mask and starving the truth, convinced that politeness and perfection will save you. But perfection is a cage, and you built it yourself. Jung said, the greater the light, the darker the shadow. The more you polish your image, the more power your hidden side gains. That's why you sabotage yourself. That's why you fall into the same patterns. Because while your persona fights to appear strong, your shadow fights to be real. And the conflict tears you apart. You feel it in the exhaustion after pretending. You feel it in the anger that rises for no reason. The war within isn't a mistake. It's an initiation. The mind must fracture before it can integrate. Every contradiction inside you is a message, a compass pointing toward wholeness. But most people run. They cling to their mask, terrified that if it breaks, they'll vanish. What they don't realize is that behind the mask waits their liberation. The shadow is not your enemy. It's the part of you that remembers who you were before you started hiding. When you stop fighting it, the war ends, not in surrender, but in unification. You become something untouchable, a being who no longer needs to fake light because they understand the dark. Comment this now. My war ends where truth begins. Because the real battlefield was never out there. It was inside your own reflection, waiting for you to choose yourself over your disguise. Number 4, descent into darkness. There comes a night when the surface collapses, when the lights of reason flicker and the ground beneath your identity gives way. You think you're falling, but this is the descent every awakened soul must face. Carl Jung called it the confrontation with the unconscious, the place where order dies and truth begins. You've spent your life building walls of logic, of faith, of comfort to keep the chaos out. But the chaos was never outside. It was pulsing inside you, patient, waiting. Now the walls crack, the repressed voices rise, the guilt you buried, the rage you tamed, the grief you refused to feel. They surge like ghosts, demanding acknowledgement. Your mind fights back, scrambling for meaning, for something solid. But there's nothing left to cling to. This is what the death of illusion feels like. The descent strips you of false strength. It shows you that you were never in control. You were only avoiding the parts of yourself that terrified you. Yet inside that terror lies revelation. The darkness isn't evil. It's uncharted potential. You begin to hear your shadow speak, not as an enemy, but as a guide. It whispers of forgotten desires, of power lost to repression, of freedom found only in surrender. You realize the only way out is through the pain, through the memories, through the unbearable honesty of seeing yourself without filters. In this abyss, you meet your maker, and it's you. Every sin, every secret, every unspoken hunger was a fragment of your wholeness. When you stop resisting, the void begins to shape itself into clarity. The fall becomes flight. Comment this now. I descend to rise. Because descent isn't failure, it's initiation. The deeper you sink into your own depths, the higher you'll rise in mastery. And when you emerge, no darkness will ever frighten you again, because you'll know it lives within your command. Number 5, the breakdown. There's a point in the journey where everything starts to fracture. The walls of certainty crumble, the roles you played dissolve, and you realize the person you thought you were is dying. It's not poetic, it's terrifying. You try to hold on to the version of yourself that the world applauded, but your grip slips. Jung called this the ego death, the annihilation of false identity. It's the moment your mind screams for rescue, but none comes. You've built an entire life around control, around the illusion that your mind was the master. Now it's breaking, and with it, the lies you've lived. The breakdown isn't punishment, it's purification. Your system can no longer sustain the contradiction of pretending to be light while denying your dark. Every suppressed emotion begins to surface. Shame, envy, longing, fear. It's chaos in clinical form. You think you're losing yourself, but in truth, you're shedding layers of illusion. The mind fights back, whispering that you're going insane. But insanity is often the name given to those who see too much too soon. Carl Jung said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain. That's the cost of truth. You must burn everything you are not to reveal what you are. And in that fire, you will grieve. You will grieve the comfort of ignorance, the simplicity of denial. But you will also feel something else, freedom, the kind that has no audience, no applause, no validation. Just you, stripped of pretense, standing in the rawness of being." Comment this now. I break to become whole, because that's what the breakdown really is. Not an ending, but an initiation. The old you collapses so the real one can breathe. The mind calls it death, the soul calls it awakening. And in that silence after the fall, you'll feel something powerful. The first heartbeat of your true self. Number 6, the alchemy of pain. Pain was never your enemy, it was your unrefined gold. Every wound, every heartbreak, every failure was a message written in the language of transformation. But you ran from it, buried it beneath distractions, ambition, and pride. You called it weakness when it was instruction. Jung believed the psyche was an alchemist, forever trying to turn darkness into consciousness. The moment you stop resisting your pain, it begins its sacred work. You start to see patterns, how your loneliness taught you empathy, how betrayal carved wisdom into your bones, how loss burned away attachment until only truth remained. This is psychological alchemy, the furnace of evolution. You sit inside the fire and let it strip you. No shortcuts, no anesthesia. The same emotions that once destroyed you become your instruments of power. You transmute fear into focus, guilt into growth, anger into creative force. The process is brutal but exact. You dissolve, you separate, you coagulate, the stages of inner chemistry. The unconscious releases its poison, and you distill it into clarity. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start whispering, "Thank you," because now you understand. Suffering was never punishment, it was preparation. You are being remade molecule by molecule into something incorruptible. Comment this now. I turn my pain into power. That phrase isn't a slogan, it's a spell, a command to your own mind. The shadow no longer frightens you, it fuels you. You become calm where you once panicked, precise where you once doubted. The world senses it. The quiet authority of someone who has mastered their inner storm. This is the alchemy Jung spoke of, the art of transforming leaden sorrow into luminous strength. And as the smoke clears, you begin to see it. Success not as conquest, but as transmutation. The fire didn't destroy you, it revealed what cannot burn. Number 7, the rebirth of the mind. After the fire, there is silence. The kind of silence that feels alive, breathing, expanding, sacred. You stand in the ashes of your former self and realize that survival was never the goal. Transformation was. Carl Jung described rebirth not as a return to innocence, but as the awakening of consciousness. You have faced your shadow and survived its storm. Now your mind begins to rebuild, not from illusion, but from truth. You no longer chase validation because you've seen where it leads, a loop of hunger that never ends. You no longer hide your pain because you've learned it's your greatest teacher. The mind that emerges after shadow work is not pure, it's whole. It can hold contradiction without collapsing. It can love without possession. It can fight without hatred. You begin to notice the subtle shift. Your reactions slow down, your words carry weight, your presence changes rooms. This is integration. When light and dark no longer compete, they collaborate. You start living with an inner balance, a quiet confidence that doesn't need to prove itself. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And this is what it feels like. A slow, graceful rising from the ruins of your old mind. You see others still wearing masks, still running from themselves, and you don't judge. You understand, because you were there once. You still carry the scars, but now they're maps, reminders of the places you've conquered within. Comment this now. I am reborn from my own fire. That declaration isn't poetry. It's a psychological fact. You've rebuilt your mind through awareness, through confrontation, through pain. The self you live in now isn't fragile. It's forged. You no longer fear losing yourself because you've learned how to find yourself in the dark. And that is the quiet power Jung tried to teach. The realization that rebirth is not becoming someone new. It's finally remembering who you are. Number 8, the silent mastery. Mastery doesn't roar, it whispers. It doesn't crave attention, it emanates control. After rebirth, you learn the quiet truth. Strength isn't loud, it's measured. The one who has met their shadow no longer reacts. They respond. They no longer chase chaos. They move through it like water around stone. Jung believed that true power lies in the integration of opposites, and you've reached that point where light and dark sit together without conflict. You no longer need to prove who you are. You know, and that knowledge radiates. The same storms that once tore you apart now pass through you without disturbance, because you've stopped identifying with the noise. You understand that silence is not emptiness, it's focus. The world tries to pull you back into its noise, competition, drama, ego traps. But you stand apart, not out of arrogance, but awareness. You see the unconscious patterns in others and recognize your former self in them. You feel compassion, not superiority. This is the mark of integration, empathy without attachment, clarity without cruelty. You've stopped seeking external validation because your validation comes from alignment. Every action is deliberate, every word intentional. Comment this now. My silence holds power. Because that's what mastery sounds like. Restraint, precision, poise. The mind that once screamed for control now moves with rhythm, not resistance. You are no longer a collection of impulses. You are consciousness in command. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. But now you've taken the wheel. You don't suppress emotion, you observe it. You don't escape pain, you use it. And in that quiet observation lies your sovereignty. You've become untouchable, not because the world changed, but because you did. The shadow bows to you now, not in defeat, but in respect. And you finally understand what power really means. Not domination, but dominion over yourself. Numer 9, the untouchable mind. There comes a point where nothing outside of you can move you anymore. Not praise, not rejection, not chaos, not silence. You've become immune to the world's manipulation because you've mastered the only battlefield that mattered, your own mind. Jung understood this state as the culmination of individuation. When the self becomes whole, the external loses its power. You no longer seek meaning from others because you found it within. You no longer need to prove your worth because you embody it. This is not arrogance, it's equilibrium. You have seen the depths of your darkness, survived your own fire, and now you stand unshaken. Your emotions still move through you, but they no longer command you. Fear may whisper, but it no longer decides. You observe everything from a center that cannot be disturbed. The noise of the world fades into a kind of background music, irrelevant to your focus. You've realized that control over others is weakness, but control over yourself is freedom. Comment this now. My mind is untouchable, because that's the declaration of someone who has transcended reaction. You don't depend on outcomes, you direct them. You don't resist change, you ride its current. The same shadow that once haunted you now protects you. It has become your armor. People sense it, the calm that unnerves them, the silence that speaks louder than noise. You've become the storm and the stillness inside it. Jung called this integration the making of the self, the completion of psychic wholeness. You've stepped beyond duality, beyond good and evil, success and failure, light and dark. You simply are, and that is the purest form of power, existence without distortion. You've discovered the secret that when nothing can possess your mind, everything belongs to your will. This is success beyond definition, the kind that no one can give or take. The untouchable mind isn't about indifference. It's about awareness so total that the world can no longer deceive you. You have met your shadow, and now nothing can stand against you because you've become one with what once destroyed you. Number 10, the final integration. Wholeness was never about perfection. It was about union. The light and the shadow, the saint and the sinner, the creator and the destroyer, all of them are you. Integration doesn't erase your darkness, it illuminates it. You've walked through every hidden corridor of your mind and found that even your monsters had wisdom to give. Jung said, "One does not become whole by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integrating the contraries." Now you understand, success was never external, it was the alignment of your inner worlds. The shadow no longer lurks in corners. It stands beside you, quiet, loyal, and powerful. You no longer divide yourself into acceptable and forbidden. You simply exist, unapologetic, aware, whole. The same fears that once enslaved you have become your compass. The same pain that broke you has become your teacher. The same silence that terrified you now feels sacred. This is what happens when you meet your shadow. You stop running, stop pretending, stop splitting yourself in two. You become the mirror and the reflection, the question and the answer. Comment this now, "I am whole," because that's the truth you've been searching for through every collapse, every breakthrough, every scream into the void. You have become what Jung called the self, the totality of consciousness and unconsciousness in harmony. The world will still test you, but it will no longer own you. You move differently now, deliberate, awake, balanced. You no longer seek light to banish the dark. You carry both, perfectly entwined. And that right there is real success. The moment when your soul stops asking for permission to exist. You've reached the end of the descent and discovered it was never death. It was integration. The mind you've built is no longer fragile, it's infinite. And if you've walked this far, then remember, this was never just a story, it was a reflection of you. So if this message found you in the dark, leave your mark below and remind the world of what you've become. Like this, subscribe and awaken, because your shadow has just crowned you whole.